So I actually found this $300 drone on Amazon, and it had some weirdly good reviews. And at first I wasn't too sure about trying it out, but then I thought, well, why not? This is the Potensic Atom 2. It's a 4K drone that is able to do some pretty cool AI tracking features. So I wanted to go ahead and test it out to see, is it just a gimmick or is it actually pretty good? Now, just to be fully transparent with you guys, Potensic did sponsor this video and they sent me out this drone so that I could test it out. However, I only agreed to do this if I was allowed to be fully honest while testing out this drone. So in this video, you will be hearing my full and honest thoughts, but I just wanted to make sure that I was fully honest with you guys and that they did send me this drone so that I could test it out. So probably one of the biggest advantages to the Potensic Atom 2 is how small and lightweight it is. Specifically, it is under 250 grams, which means you don't have to actually go through the whole registration process so that you can use it, because drone laws are pretty wild. So not only is it lightweight though, it's extremely small. Like, look how absolutely tiny this little 4K drone is. It's honestly pretty dang impressive. Also, the batteries are pretty lightweight. Now, while they are lightweight, it is advertised to give you 31 minutes of flight time, which is actually pretty good. We'll actually test it to see if it does actually give us 31 minutes of flight time, but that's at least what's being advertised. Now, in my experience, actually pairing up the drone and using it is pretty dang quick. All you have to do is remove the little protective cover, which is great that they give you one, and then you just have to pair it to the app on your phone using the controller. Now, this is the actual controller. I will say it's extremely comfortable. However, it's pretty big. I honestly would expect for a drone of this size that the controller maybe wouldn't be quite so bulky. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but it's something to know. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just demonstrate how you set this thing up, just in case you are interested in getting this drone for yourself. It is pretty easy. Now on the controller itself, this little bit right here, this is your actual antenna. So you just flip that up and that's what's actually communicating with the drone. And then all you have to do is take your phone. They have a USB-C as well as an iPhone cable, depending on what you're using. And then you just need to have the Potensic app. The controller actually just expands and then you can just tuck this in here and then it's held just like that. Now, additionally, you'll notice that there's no joysticks here. That's because they're actually clipped onto the back of the controller, which is really great to actually reduce the profile of the controller when you're packing it away in your bag. All you have to do is take these out and then screw them into the actual controller. So once you have it in this configuration, all you need to do is double press and hold, and that'll actually turn on the remote controller. And then we just need to turn on the drone, which is the same process. Button on the bottom, double click, hold down on the second click, and then it turns on itself. And after a couple seconds, it'll just click on the Fly Now button on the phone. So one of the cool things about this drone is that you have two different buttons here on the back that you can actually select what you want them to do. So currently how I have it set up is on the right trigger, if I press it once, it'll switch the different modes. So that's video mode, which will go a little slower, normal mode, which will go kind of a nice medium speed, and then it has sport mode if you want to really rip it, which I was just testing out and it looked pretty dang fast. On the other side, if I go ahead and double click the left button, it'll switch it right into vertical mode, which everything is going into short form content these days. So being able to quickly switch into vertical versus horizontal mode is pretty dang useful. So definitely one of the most interesting things about this drone is its various different tracking features. So I have it just flying out here in front of me. And if I want to, I can just drag my finger on the screen, highlight myself, and now it's tracking me. So if I move left or if I move right, the drone's actually going to follow along with me, which is pretty cool. But we have a lot of different modes in here. One of the modes that I want to try, and I actually haven't tested any of these out yet, we're kind of learning together, is there's a follow mode. So I'm going to go ahead and click on follow. We're going to click on go. So now the drone is actually going to track with me, which is pretty nice. So we've been kind of messing around with some of the AI tracking features with this drone, and it seems like they're pretty solid, although we did pick about the worst possible vehicle to test this on because the Cybertruck is so dang reflective, but it did seem to work for about 15 seconds and then it would lose it in this gray terrain on a gray truck, so go figure. Right now I have it orbiting me in this little tracking mode, and it actually seems to be doing this pretty dang well. I'm actually pretty surprised. I thought it would probably have some issues with this because it's so low to the ground, but it actually doesn't seem to mind at all. You have lots of different tracking modes in this. This is just a handful of them, but I would say overall it's pretty decent for the price, but it's not going to be absolutely perfect. So I just put a fresh battery in it, and we're gonna actually test to see how accurate that 31-minute flight time is. I'm sure it's gonna be somewhat close. I imagine if we were filming the whole time in 4K, it's going to be potentially a bit less. So I don't think I'll film the whole time, I'll film in clips, but this will just be a good test to see kind of how close we're getting to that 30-minute mark for an actual flight time on one battery. So the time right now, just for reference, is 5:39-ish. So I will let you guys know when we are out of battery, and then we'll see what time it is. We actually switched to a different lens if you're wondering why it looks extra pretty right now. If you want to learn more about this crazy cool lens, you can go to Cammackey's channel. But one of the things that I like about having a drone that's a bit on the more affordable side, much more on the affordable side, especially when you compare it to other drones, is that you can kind of get a little bit reckless with it. So I've actually been flying this drone, doing little between some tree shots, some trench runs. I've actually already run it into a tree once, and surprisingly, it held up just fine. Now, while I'm saying you can be reckless, one of the things to know about it is that you actually don't have side sensors. So if you're going to run into something and you're doing some pretty epic panning shots, well, you might run into a tree. So just be sure you're actually able to see your drone and where you're flying and make sure you're safe. But I do like that I feel just a little bit emboldened when flying an affordable drone. I
wasn't paying too much attention to this drone that Connor has, but I finally looked at the back of his phone screen as he's flying it, and I'm actually pretty impressed. For 300 bucks, I think the image quality is perfect for anybody who wants to get into drone photography or just pick up your first drone. My first drone was the DJI Spark, and I made magic with that by using After Effects. That's how long ago this was. I was color grading in After Effects. And yeah, this is even better than that. And again, it's freaking $300. That's insane.
So it went ahead and landed itself after it hit, I think, about 15%. It was like, hey, it's time to return. There's probably a way to override that, but I didn't know of a way to do that. So even with 15% battery left, I showed you guys my watch. It ended at right about 6 o'clock. So I don't know, I'd say it flew for 21, 22 minutes consistently. And honestly, I did record for almost all of that. And I also was flying it in sport mode, which drains the battery a little bit faster. So imagining you actually took it all the way down to 0%, and maybe you weren't flying in sport mode, but maybe normal mode or video mode, probably get closer to 30 minutes. But in this test, I got about 22 minutes. So I would say practically you're gonna get just over 20 minutes with this battery versus the 31 minutes that's advertised. But what is cool, if you want to, you can upgrade to get this really nice battery multi-charger, which is pretty cool. And then that way you always have another battery so that you'll get closer to an hour to an hour and a half of flight time with all 3 batteries. So it might be a worthy upgrade to go ahead and buy this.
All right, guys. I haven't told Connor this. I've crashed 3 drones in my day. None of them were mine, and none of them were under $1,000. So if I were to buy another drone, and actually I haven't bought a drone, if I were to buy my own drone, I would want something that I would be able to not be worried too much about. And the fact that this is decent and not incredibly expensive, hey man, that sells it for me. I'd love to see the footage.
So Connor just showed me the footage. I'm watching it right now. And whew, compared to the $300 price tag, this beats my expectations for sure. Damn, you gotta tell me some of the downsides, because honestly, it looks pretty nice.
This is actually a great opportunity to talk about some of the downsides because it's 329 bucks. There's gonna be some issues with it. One of the ones that I've noticed is that I tend to get these interesting stripe patterns across the frame every once in a while. I think it's the light glaring off of the blades of the drone itself. So that could, depending on the angle of your shot and the orientation of the sun, how high or low it is, that could ruin some of your footage. I've also noticed that while the footage actually looks fairly good, especially if you're gonna share it on social media, it's not the highest quality footage you're ever going to interact with. But again, considering the price tag, it's really not so bad. And then additionally, it's not the most stationary drone. So you know how with a lot of higher end drones, you let go of the joysticks, it just kind of locks in place. This drone has a little bit more of a float around. Not the biggest deal, but if you're flying in a more confined situation, which a lot of people, sometimes that's the best shot, it's a little bit hard to control. Not hard to control, but it's just like, you gotta pay attention because it kind of moves around a little bit. I don't have any side sensors on it, obstacle avoidance sensors on the side. So I actually did run it into a tree already. Maybe that's a positive. positive because it's still here.
It's still here. Hey, that's pretty good.
I didn't have to replace blades or anything, but I got a clip. I was recording, so there you go. You can see it hit a tree. But yeah, there are going to be downsides to a drone this affordable.
Yeah.
But that being said, and again, I think that's what the reviews on Amazon kind of reflect, it's really good for the price tag. But the thing that's actually going to unlock this drone, and unfortunately it's not in it yet, is that it will have log footage. Now, this is something that more professionals use, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's plenty fine. But for those of you who do, they are eventually going to add what's called PLOG. I assume it stands for Potensic Log. And that is going to be an amazing feature in a drone this affordable. I was playing around with it just a little bit more, and the AI tracking just got a lot better for me, especially for beginners. So one of the hardest things about doing a drone is you really want to have 3 different axes of movement, and that's what actually makes a good drone shot. So it's like, for example, maybe you want to rotate around to the left or to the right, add up and down movement, but then also you want to tilt up and down. That's a lot of things to consider, especially when you're new. It's even hard for me, and I've flown drones for a while. But one of the things I noticed is if I actually highlight an object, in this case, Armando's Cybertruck, and it's in spotlight mode, now I don't have to do anything with these dials here for panning up and down. All I have to do is worry about the 2 sticks. So for example, I could fly backwards, I can go up, and I can rotate around, and it's going to actually keep the framing for me. I don't have to do anything else. This is honestly a really great feature, especially if you're new to flying. It's going to unlock much more dynamic drone shots for you. I will say that as I've been using it, the user interface is very, very intuitive. In fact, it feels almost very familiar. I didn't find it to be too difficult at all to navigate through and find what I'm looking for. Now, definitely one of the cooler things about this drone is that it's super available. Again, it's available on Amazon, but it's also now available in Costco, which is pretty cool. So what's the deal with this Potensic drone? Well, I really do feel like for the price, $329, you're getting a drone that punches way above its weight class. Now, the question is what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the footage and the tracking features are worth the $300 price tag? To me, I kind of think that it is. Some of the more advanced AI tracking modes, I feel like really lend themselves to beginners and being able to get more dynamic shots. And with the addition of PLOG coming soon in a firmware update, I think this thing kind of punches way above its weight class. If you guys would like to see me explore the PLOG mode in the future update, definitely hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on that. I hope you all enjoyed this little look at this Atom 2 drone. I think it's pretty sweet, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys.